Cafe Anyway.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Episode 1213. Hello, it's Mike Matthews broadcasting from Cafe Anyway, located somewhere in Podcastro Valley, Moncton. I'd like to thank the wonderful software that I'm using to record this show for crashing. I did a whole show already and it crashed and it saved none of it. Thank you so much. So I'm in a really good mood right now. Hey, how are you today?
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Actually, I'm kind of happy that it is Fall Back Day. It's like my favorite day of the year. I love getting that extra hour.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
Of sleep because I work 2 jobs and it's kind of nice to get an extra hour of sleep. It's like Christmas without the ice. It's like getting a present from time, and time is all we need. Time after time. Time, see what's become of me. Yeah.
Mike's Daily Podcast.
I love that we get that extra hour. To me, that's better than Christmas. Well, today's show,
Mike's
we have Madame Rootabega,
Daily
Valentino,
Podcast,
and Bison Bentley.
Yeah!
And I would like to say to you, vote on Tuesday. I've got 3 millennial friends. One of them will not vote because he says, I'm not going to vote because the 2 candidates, I hate them, and I'm not going to vote because of that. To me, that's BS, that's lazy, and you've got to vote. Even if it's not for either of the candidates, you've got to vote. And that is the biggest kiss-off ever. That's the biggest sort of just lazy excuse not to vote. I have a friend that's my own age that would strongly disagree with me and say, no, I think the whole political system is corrupted. I'm not going to participate. I'm not going to vote. I say, get the hell out of America. Hey, and I have 2 other millennial friends. One of them just became an American citizen last year. He's not going to vote because he forgot to register, which I can't get too mad about because that happened to me in 1990 when I got back from college. I hadn't re-registered when I got back home, and I felt really bad. Ever since then, though, I have voted every election. Even when I was in Alabama, I re-registered in Alabama to vote. And then I have another millennial friend that just forgets when it's election day. He forgets to go and vote. Even though he has strong political opinions, he forgets to vote because he's a millennial and he's young. There's so many things going on in his life. Look who just walked in. Hello, Michael Massey. It's Madame Rootabega. I have voted every election since the beginning of time. Ooh. That's wonderful, madam. Gee, do you wonder if this podcast is actually going to be recorded or if it's going to break down like the last podcast I did? It just completely... The recording system didn't stop for it. Stop. Michael Masu, I don't know what you're talking about, Michael Masu. Woo. I want to go to Benicia today. Sounds good. I spent an hour yesterday trying to figure out my ballot, my sample ballot, and figure out all the propositions. And Californians have so many propositions to vote for this time. One about porn stars, one about marijuana, all kinds of stuff. And you really have to dig in and read that. They give you a full book with the, for and against arguments, and you really have to dig down deep and see, okay, what's this really about? There's one proposition about how every bill that comes before the California Congress needs to be on the internet for at least 3 days first. Which it sounded like a good idea at first, but then I was like, wait a minute. So, I don't know. That's also very... And then there's one about the death... There's 2 about the death penalty. Wow. It's just so many. This one particular one... Look who else just walked in. This one was also about helping subsidize people so that they can live in the Bay Area, even if they can't afford living in the Bay Area. Which I thought was kind of an interesting one because I would not be living in the Bay Area if it was not for 2 things. I inherited some money from my dad, and that that the economic downturn happened, and the housing prices went down for a couple of years at the beginning of this decade. So that's how I was able to move here, and I moved here about 7 years ago now. And so now we're trying to do something where people that can't afford to live here, we're supposed to pay for their houses to live here, which is kind of an interesting proposition. Anyway, all these propositions, and of course the president, everything you got to vote for here in California. I know a lot of people, most people are not going to take the time to read the propositions. I think a lot of people, I think all these propositions may scare away quite a few Californians from voting. It'll be interesting to see. Yeah. So I don't know if that's good for Hillary, because California is supposed to be a blue state. The millennials are supposed to be voting for Hillary. I don't know if they are, because of the reasons I mentioned earlier. So it'll be interesting to see, studio, what happens. I had also a fun time with Basil the Boxer yesterday, walking down Podcastro Valley to the center of I guess what we call the main street of Podcastro Valley. I wanted to go get a sandwich at Mr. Pickles. But Mr. Pickles, on the weekend, of course, is run by teenagers, as is most fast food places. I worked as a teenager for a fast food place called Expressly Chicken, where we said we roasted our chicken, which was we would batter the chicken, throw it in a pressure cooker with oil, cook it, and then take it to your house. I would deliver it to your house like I would deliver a pizza. Nope, I would deliver chicken to your house. It was this company that was just trying to get off the ground. They were hoping to do a big franchise. They were Mormons. It didn't work out. They didn't succeed. But when I quit there, it was a couple months later that I got on the radio for the first time. And thus I was bitten by the radio bug. And that is why I am podcasting to you today, because I still have that disease in my body to want to broadcast. But yes, I went all the way down there, walked about 3 miles to get to Mr. Pickles, and it turned out all the chairs that you would use to sit outside, and I wanted to sit outside because I had my dog with me, Basil the Boxer, and it turned out all the chairs and tables, they were put inside because they wanted to close. Even though it was 2 hours till closing, they wanted to close. Because it's Saturday, dang it, we want to close. So they were trying to close early. And Mr. Pickles, for that, you did not get my money. I so wanted a meatball sandwich, but it didn't happen. Thank you so much. So, to you teenagers of America that run fast food places, I understand you want to close and go and enjoy your Saturday night, but geez, throw the old Gen Xer a bone, will you? Hey, we're going to do the podcast picture. I'll tell you what it is real quick before the little podcast picture aerial announcement happens. And that is, it's of a beautiful sunset that happened in the Bay Area on Friday. And we're going to see sunsets a lot earlier now, an hour earlier, because of the daylight savings. And now we're on Pacific Standard Time, right? Is that what it is? So, see that picture now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST-1213-Redo.
And here's today's podcast picture.
A picture of the sunset from the Hayward Regional Shoreline, looking out towards the peninsula. See all the past podcast pictures. You can help out the show through the Amazon link. Click on that Amazon link, buy whatever it is you're going to buy, and that helps us out. There's also a link to the PayPal. Help support the show that way. You'll get a special greeting from all the Cafe Anyway characters. And there's past interviews. I'm going to interview a band in probably, 25 minutes from now, which I will play back on a future show with a band called Autopilot. They're coming to San Francisco on the 16th. Don't know where yet, but we'll find out. And so I'll post that on a future show. Okay, let's get to the segment called Matthew's News.
Matthew's News.
Hey, and for all you Benicia, I'm going to go out to Benicia today with Basil the Boxer. So if you're downtown Benicia today, you'll see me walking around. I don't know, you may be listening to this later in the week, and if that's the case, then forget about it. But hey, this happened, and it was a thing that kind of had to do with the Cold War. Canadian waters have yielded their second strange case of the week. The CBC reports, that would be the cable of the Canadian Broadcasting Company, reports that the Royal Canadian Navy is on its way to investigate a possible lost nuke believed to have been dumped off the coast of British Columbia before an American B-36 bomber crashed in 1950. Diver Sean Smiritsky says that he was searching for sea cucumbers recently when he spotted a bizarre object underwater that resembled a giant metal bagel cut in half with bolts bigger than basketballs. He says he told his buddies he might have spotted a UFO. And when he told some fishermen about the sighting a few days later, quote, some old-timer said, "Oh, you might have found that bomb." The bomb the old-timer was referring to was the Mark IV bomb missing since 1950. It was a 1950 crash in the area of the U.S. bomber, which was returning to a base in Alaska after a mission that included a simulated nuclear bombing of San Francisco. The bomb was packed with TNT and weighed almost 11,000 pounds, though records indicate that its core was packed with lead, not plutonium, so there is little risk of a nuclear accident. This according to a Canadian military spokesperson. Nonetheless, we do want to be sure and we do want to investigate it further, he says, adding that experts will determine whether the object should be retrieved or left where it is. Earlier this week, the Canadian military investigated a strange noise coming from the Arctic sea floor. Don't know if that was connected in any way. This according to a USA Today. As we go outside a cafe anyway, where we bring you Mike's Daily Podcast somewhere in Podcastro Valley. Enjoy the rest of your day. Once you get the extra hours sleep, then the rest of the day is just kind of a downer, isn't it? Because then the sun goes down fast and yeah. Oh well. Well, enjoy your fast food that you get from your local teenagers. If you're a local teenager, thank you for your service in the fast food world. I know it's not easy. Thanks for putting up with old guys like me. Next show, it's going to be Chely Shoehart, Floyd the Floorman, John Deere the engineer. If you're a Californian, break out that ballot and that ballot book today and get on it. My little tip is save all the junk mail you get and the campaigns that send you the most junk mail. Get your little bit of vengeance against them by voting against whatever they want you to vote for. That's what I'm doing with several measures that have just completely blitzed me with junk mail. I'm like, forget you. I'm voting against you. And that, in fact, I was mentioning that in a past podcast about somebody that kept ringing my doorbell, and then they left and I didn't answer the doorbell, and then they left their little political ad piece of paper on my door, and I'm like, okay, thank you, I'm going to vote against this. So, and if you're someone who's promoting a campaign, yeah, maybe all that money that goes to ad campaigns and then they dump it all on the paper that they print to send to your house, or they completely blitz your TV that you're watching with the ads. Ugh. It just, all that money could be done for some kind of good thing, right? Like giving people housing in the Bay Area. That's just one possible good. All right, I'll end the show.
Wait a minute, Mike. You didn't have us on Valentino the Barking Attendant.
And this is Bison Bentley. Do you know that?
Mike, we can't wait till Chris Christie takes over the White House there.
Yeah, he's part of the transitioning team for the Trump. Do you know that? Oh, okay, guys. You gonna vote?
Heck no. Politics are corrupt.
Yeah, corrupt. Do you know that? Okay, now we're done.
Mike's Daily Podcast is written and produced and performed by Mike Matthews. His podcast is super easy to find. Download or listen to his show and read his blog at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST.com. Email Mike now at MIKEs-DAILY-PODCAST@gmail.com. See you tomorrow. Bye!